Yo, what is up guys, MG Gibbs here. So today we're going to be showing off an armor guide for Insurgency Sandstorm. I usually get this question quite a lot from new players, when and how to use armor, and today hopefully I can help you out with that on whether or not to pick it in your class. First of all credit due to Bode Maple on Reddit. His description will be in the link down below. He's the one who made this chart that we're going to take a look at today. So usually what I tell newer players with my personal experience playing the game for so long is that armor is not really something that stops bullets. You know, a lot of newer players tend to hop on Insurgency Sandstorm. They'll see body armor and they'll automatically throwing it on without knowing exactly how well it really protects you. It's important to know how exactly to use the armor because it does cost you points at the end of the day. Whether you're using a light armor for 1 point or heavy armor for 3 points, that could be used for different loadout points, whether it's like a recoil grip or an extra smoke grenade. Not only that, it also weighs you down, so you could be a heavier player running around when in fact you might not even need it in the certain scenario you're running. I'd also like to quickly note, even though it doesn't absorb as much bullets as you'd think, it does also help absorb explosive damage. So in a scenario, you're not going to be like a juggernaut, but you might be able to tank a grenade or an RPG at a certain distance if you're wearing armor. So it's not just about bullets, and we'll get to that more later down in the video. Now with our first observation of the chart at 5 meters, we start to see the difference between no armor and light armor. So we're scrolling down, and the difference between no armor and light armor with a bullet is the Tariq and the Browning, 2 pistols, and then you kind of scroll down, you don't see any SMGs make a difference, but then what's really shocking is you see the AK-74U and the Mark 18 add an extra bullet. The 2 carbines in the game became a 3-shot at close range rather than sticking to a 2-shot. And then what's also really shocking is if you start going down the list, a couple of hard-hitting rifles become a 2-shot with light armor, which is the G3A3, Ace 52, and the Defor 7 at close range go from a 1-shot kill with no armor to a 2-shot kill. Now we start getting into the difference with heavy armor, so the Makarov, Whale Rod, L10, M9, and the PF940, also known as the Glock, all take an extra shot at close range. We also start to see SMGs come into play with an extra shot when it comes to the Uzi, Sterling, and the MP5, but SMGs such as the Grease Gun and the MP7 stay the same shots no matter what at close distance. We also see a couple heavy hitting rifles come into play, and that is the FAL, Mark 14 EBR, and M110 SAS. These all become a 1-shot to a 2-shot when it comes to rocking heavy armor at CQB range. Now, how does this information help you guys out? Well, it just kind of all depends on the scenario you're at with CQB range. Say, for example, the guy on the other team is using a carbine, and he is fragging out. He's the top frag on the other team, and he keeps kicking your ass. Well, if you know he's using any of the 2 carbines, you can just throw on light armor and add an extra shot, giving you just that much more of a survival chance to win that gunfight. Same thing with a heavy armor. If you're rocking a map like Tell and someone on the other team is using an MP5 or something like that, throwing on heavy armor could help you save you in those certain gunfights. Also, knowing that heavy armor can basically stop every hard-hitting rifle in this game and preventing that 1-shot kill on you and turning it into a 2-shot kill with heavy armor, even at close range. Now, this doesn't work with every single rifle, but the majority of all semi-auto rifles in this game are basically a 2-shot when rocking heavy armor. There are negatives though, and the negatives is that the majority of players on the other team are rocking assault rifles, and if you can see in CQB range, it doesn't change almost anything when it comes to assault rifles, and no matter what you're rocking, a light armor or a heavy armor, it's going to take the same amount of bullets to kill. You also have to be aware too that this is a hardcore game with fast firing weapons. So even if it does protect you against 1 shot, as long as he's hitting his shots and the weapon is above 500 rounds per minute, you're going to get put down just as fast. You're literally only saving yourself for like maybe a half a second. But in certain scenarios, that might help you out, and that might give you the turning tide to that gunfight. So yeah, I'd basically say it's more like a counter against specific guns that I just listed, rather than expecting just to be an absolute tank. So now we're looking at 45 to 50 meter range. This is, medium range. firefights. And the chart looks a little more colorful, but I assure you, looks are deceiving. There really isn't much of a huge difference. So let's get into it. You can tell right off the bat that you're going to see an exaggeration with lower caliber weapons such as SMGs. As you can tell, it takes more bullets when the range starts coming in. Of course, that's predictable because, you know, SMGs are CQB weapons and not more like medium range weapons. So you're going to see a lot of damage drop off. But here we start seeing a difference with ARs finally, particularly only with heavy armor though. Light armor still doesn't make a difference with ARs at this range. So you can see that the AK-74U goes from a 2-shot to a 3-shot with heavy armor. Same thing as the Alpha AK, the G36, the Galil SAR. Surprisingly, not the security Galil, only the Insurgent Galil adds an extra bullet. Very interesting. And then we can also see that the M4 in the VHS also add an extra bullet. Almost forgot to mention that the ASVAL also takes an extra bullet as well at medium range against heavy armor. And what's really interesting about this chart is the Honey Badger. At close range or medium range, it stays a 2-shot kill compared to its other ARs such as the M4 or the VHS that take an extra shot to kill. I guess it's a nice trade-off considering that it does have lower velocity than the other guns I just talked about. So how do you use this information towards your advantage? Well, if you're looking at the stat chart, we can tell that no armor and light armor are almost identical at medium range. There is practically no advantage when it comes to no armor and light armor at these ranges unless you're using a low caliber weapon such as an SMG, or the one exception on this entire list, which is the Mark 14, which becomes a 2-shot when wearing light armor compared to a 1-shot to no armor. Now, the usefulness of armor does shift towards the heavy armor side as you start to see assault rifles come into play that adds an extra bullet at medium range, such as the AK-74, M4, VHS, QBZ. You know, there's a couple rifles out there that add an extra bullet at medium range when rocking the heavy armor. But no, this is not all the assault rifles. Only about a third of the ARs in the game add an extra shot while using heavy armor at medium range. So guns like the AUG or the FAMAS don't make a difference at this range. But you can use this information, for example, if you are playing at a medium range map and the top fragger on the other team is using an M4, you know, it's a very popular gun with high rate of fire and easy to control recoil. You can throw on heavy armor to try and counter him or her on the other team and giving yourself a better chance in that gunfight. Now we start to see the armor thrive a bit at long range at 110 meters. This is also where we start to see where light armor starts to thrive, especially compared to heavy armor. So at 100-meter range, you start to see M10, Garand, Mark 14, SVD, M249, and PKM all take one extra shot with light armor. And if you add a heavy armor to that, it stays the same. So there is no difference between how many bullets it takes between light armor and heavy armor at this range with those weapons I just talked about right now. So light armor could really thrive against those guns when you're playing those long range maps. Now the difference with the heavy armor, the M24, the FAMAS, the Galil, the M16, the AUG A3, and the SKS all take an extra bullet compared to light armor. What's interesting to point out is that the M24 actually takes a 2-chest shot with heavy armor at this range, but the Mosin stays a 1-shot. So just, you know, comparing the two bolt actions together, the Mosin will stay a 1-shot. Now again, how can you use this information towards your advantage? Well, in certain scenarios on long range maps, I definitely suggest at least throwing on light armor, if not heavy armor. So if you're trying to run across an objective on a map that has a huge feeding ground for snipers, throwing on that armor, no matter if it's light or heavy, is probably going to make a difference at that long range. Huge example, you know, you can always switch out armors depending on the map and placements of the map. You know, certain maps have really long range engagements and then it turns into a short range engagement or a medium range engagement once you hit certain objectives. Well, for the long range engagements such as crossing, for example, you're attacking a security against a defending insurgent team and you have to chill on the hills and push into their cave. Well, those hills are well over 100 meters, and you're definitely going to get sniped at from almost any little crevice of the mountaintop in crossing. So throwing on armor could really help you survive that extra bullet, especially if you're counter sniping or you're bipoded with an LMG from that range. You can definitely see some usefulness, especially against snipers. So with explosives, I actually had to go in my own lobby and test this out for my own self. So I don't know if the numbers are 100% accurate, but these are what I got. So I'd like to start off saying that burning damage does not affect armor whatsoever. It's the same no matter what. At least that's what I got with Molotovs. Now this is the chart I kind of made up with. So with the numbers I got, the frag grenade with no armor, you can survive up to 11 meters. Then with armor, whether it's light or heavy, you can survive up to 9 meters. With C4, no armor is 12, light armor is 11, and heavy armor is 9 meters. With the RPG, no armor and light armor are the same at both 9 meters, while the heavy armor is at 7 meters. The exact same thing also goes with the explosive grenade launcher. So now, how do you use this information towards your advantage? Well, whenever you're defending the objective, you're going to want to probably rock some light armor. You know, it's usually a thing that players do on the attacking team is that they flood the objective and try to clear it out with frag grenades. If you see the enemy constantly trying to throw frags and clear you out, it's probably the best bet to actually rock light armor in these situations. Now, for heavy armor against explosives, it does run really well. So if someone on the other team is using a demolitions class like the RPG or explosive launcher, you're going to want to counter him with heavy armor. But with light armor, it really doesn't make a difference. So if there's a demolition on the other team that's going ham, a great counter for that is rocking heavy armor. So to summarize all this information, you know, maybe you don't want to learn the specifics about countering a specific gun or weapon. You just want to overall know a general knowledge when to use armor. Well, light armor seems to be very effective at long range. If you're sniping or you're playing a long range map like BAB or Crossing, it definitely doesn't hurt to throw on light armor. For medium range engagement maps, kind of like Outskirts, heavy armor, definitely going to be a buddy of yours. You might want to always throw on heavy armor whenever you get the chance, whenever you're rocking the medium to long range maps. I can definitely see heavy armor thriving in those scenarios. Lastly, with smaller maps like Tell, Summit, and Farmhouse, you're probably not going to want to rock armor whatsoever. You know, you're going to want to stay light on your feet, as these smaller maps is all about speed. You want to get into the positions faster. You know, this can make or break winning a gunfight, is being able to get into your spots first. So having no armor in these maps probably going to help you out in the long run. Now, this information also might sound a little contradicting. It really just depends on what scenario you're given. But if you're playing a game mode like Push, you know, there is attacking and defending. This does come to a scenario that armor might help the defending side more than the attacking. Because you don't need to be attacking the objective, you can hunker down and you can afford to be slow. So in certain scenarios, when you have some extra points, it doesn't hurt to throw on armor and maybe save your life in the rare chance, given that you really don't need speed on your side while defending the objective. So I hope this video really helped you guys out. I know it was kind of complicated. It's not like a night and day difference to show you armor and no armor. It's the little things that help, and it's a sandbox game at the end of the day. You know, you never know when you're going to get thrown in the perfect scenario where armor's going to thrive or not. You know, that's all up to you and how you're going to judge it, and it's just a calculated risk whether you're going to throw it on or not. Hopefully with this information that really helps you out, and who knows, maybe you find that perfect sweet spot where it gives you the leverage you need. So I don't usually ask this, but please leave a like. You know, I painfully went through all this information trying to help you guys out the best way I could. It's not the easiest video to do, so all I ask is if it helped you guys out, please leave a like, subscribe for more, and this is MG Gibbs. I'm out.